Welcome to Patrick's Book Reviews. All right, welcome back everyone. Great to have you here with me today in this Thanksgiving season. Here in Thailand, it's already Black Friday. Maybe by the time this video is coming out, it will also be Black Friday in America. But for you Americans, happy Thanksgiving. It's probably your Thanksgiving dinner about right now. And while we're on the topic of giving thanks, I'd like to thank everyone who's subscribed to this channel. Now up to a mild milestone of 50 subscribers. So thank you to everyone who subscribed and everyone who watches this channel. I do really appreciate that. And switching to the topic of Black Friday, obviously it's a big shopping day. I'm not a big shopper myself. I don't like shopping. Like, for example, when my son and I go grocery shopping, we're usually in and out of the grocery store in about 10 minutes. We know exactly what we need to buy, where we need to go, and we just get out as quick as we can. But the exception for me would be books. You could drop me off at a bookstore and I could stay there all day and enjoy myself. However, I live in rural Thailand, so there's just not a lot of bookstores available. Now, when there are bookstores, they tend to be in bigger cities, of course, and those bookstores tend to carry mainly paperbacks, and you're going to pay a pretty penny for them. They're not exactly cheap. They're probably equal to what you'd pay for a paperback in America, or maybe even slightly more. And there are some used bookstores, I think, like in Bangkok and stuff, but they're kind of hard to come across, for me at least. And I know sometimes there's book fairs and stuff, so that's another good way to find books. But even used books aren't particularly cheap here, at least English used books. I don't think there's that great of a quantity. So for me, what I've found myself doing is occasionally I will buy a paperback from a bookstore here. But generally speaking, I've been ordering books online. And I imagine this is a bit of a niche thing because most people probably do live close to a bookstore if you're living in a city. But I imagine some people living in rural areas, maybe even in America or throughout the world, kind of have the same predicament as I do with buying books. And so more and more lately, I've been ordering books online. I discovered a while back, like if you order from Amazon and you spend more than $35, they have free international shipping. So, I can buy like 4 or 5 books at a time and then get free shipping on that. And that usually applies to used books as well. It doesn't always cover anything. And so what's interesting is sometimes there will be a paperback edition of a book. Like, for example, the first book I'm going to talk about today, Plague Dogs by Richard Adams. I could have got that book on paperback, but it wasn't available for free international shipping. So the price I would have paid for it would have been pretty high. And I also have an issue with many modern book covers. I'll flash up the picture of Plague Dogs, the paperback edition. But now there's no hardcover edition available, so you can't get the original cover. And the original cover of that book happens to be probably my favorite book cover of all time. So I was quite happy to be able to find a decently conditioned used copy of that book, a hardcover copy from 1978, I believe. And so this is what I ended up ordering and getting. And again, I absolutely love this cover of Plague Dogs. And Richard Adams, he's most famous. I love when covers wrap around like that too. But he's most famous for Watership Down, of course. But I think I might actually like Plague Dogs better than Watership Down. Now, when I reread Watership Down after many years, I didn't quite like it as much the second time as the first time. And I read Plague Dogs before I had reread Watership Down. And when I read Plague Dogs, I was like, I might actually like this better than Watership Down. And that's why I reread Watership Down. But the last time I read Plague Dogs was on my Kindle. I'd gotten it from the library. And that was like back during COVID time. So it's probably been 5 or 6 years. So I've really been wanting to get a copy of this book. And I specifically wanted the original hardback edition. So I found this for like real cheap. And I was able to get it with the free shipping. It wasn't super cheap, but it was cheaper than the paperback would have been, is my point. And when it came, now this is one thing, when you order secondhand hardcover books, a lot of times you might get a library edition, a book from a library that's been discontinued. That was the case with this one. And so it had that kind of library plastic seal over it, plastic cover, and it had stickers all over it, old barcodes and stuff. So I think there was a barcode over here that was scribbled out in blue marker. So initially I was like, oh crap, is that like on the actual book? But luckily that one was on the outside plastic sheet. But there was another barcode which like went across the dog's face right here. And when I got it, I wasn't sure if I'd actually be able to get that off without like ripping up the book and stuff. But luckily, like I took the plastic off and that just peeled like really nicely right off, and all the other tape and stuff came off. And so you can't even really see where there were any stickers on this one. But you can, if you open it, see that it was a library book. And so sometimes I'll remove what I can, but like once stuff is on the paper, it's harder to remove. However, this one I like because it's old enough that it still has the pocket. And so it's kind of a cool way just to like, you can throw a bookmark in there if you want or whatever. So that's really all it's got for markings. I think, like on the back, there's nothing. That's the original cover there. And yeah, so I was really, really happy with this. I felt like I hit the jackpot. The actual pages and stuff are really nice too. And that's kind of the advantage, I think, to getting these old paperbacks. Besides looking cool, like having the old hardcovers, besides looking really great, I love the covers. The other advantage is like the quality of the actual paper and the spine and whatnot. Like these things are built to last. This book is probably getting on close to 50 years, I guess. And it's still in great shape. And especially living in a tropical climate, just the cheap paperback pages will like yellow really fast and just look they age very quickly. I've noticed like the higher quality paper in quality paperbacks and hardcovers just lasts a lot longer. It's a lot stronger. So as far as the wear and tear of the book, you're getting something that lasts a long time. And I like I said, I just absolutely adore this book. So I was so happy to get that. So that's my kind of first example. And my first point is that the old books you get the way better cover. For some reason, modern covers, they always try to, I don't know what, like you can see with Plague Dogs, they just they make it into something that's not appealing to me, at least. Like it just it's trying to, I guess, appeal to modern sensibilities. But for me, it doesn't do that. I love the nostalgic feeling of these old books, and like it's just so beautiful. The dogs are so beautiful. You'd actually kind of care for them if you see it like this, rather than some shadowy black figure that I believe is on the new one. And they also did that. He's got another book, a fantasy novel called Shardig, which I actually don't like quite as much. I like Adams best when he's writing from an animal POV point of view, because he does a great job of that, actually. Like in Plague Dogs, there's one of my favorite scenes ever from a novel, really. And when I reread it and review that, which I'm going to do soon, I'll be sure to talk about that. But as an example of like Shardig, this one I didn't. This was before I knew you could get like the old ones so easily. So I bought like a newer paperback edition. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like this, there's nothing terrible about this, but it's just kind of, rather like if you look at the cover of the old one, which I'll flash up here, it just looks way better. It's got like a way cooler looking bear and whatnot. And this one, the bear is just kind of like a red shadow, and it's fine, but it's nothing special. And this is an okay paperback, but just like I said, if you can get like the older original hardcover for basically the same price, or oftentimes even less, why not go with that option? All right, and then the next kind of example I wanted to give was with Stephen King. So I've been buying like a lot of Stephen King books. I've been trying to read more modern novels, I guess, and he was just one of the entryways into that I was somewhat interested in. And so I went to a bookstore here in Thailand, and I was quite excited to find like a lot of his books in paperback. This was when we were on vacation, so I was in a bigger city. But again, you're gonna pay a pretty hefty price for them as well. Like, so this I got an edition of It, A great book, by the way. I'll be reviewing this in my end of the month video. But this one, when I was reading it at about like, I don't know, 400 something, two of the pages actually came out. And so I was starting to get worried, like, oh, is this whole book just going to collapse on me before I can finish it? Luckily it didn't, and I was able to kind of stick them back in there, and they stay in now. But if I messed with it a lot, they would probably come out again. And also, this is an example of a cover that's not great. I think a lot of the paperback here, like this is the UK edition, but I'm not sure if this is just like, if this cover is unique to the UK. But, if you look at the original It cover, the hardcover edition, it looks way cooler. I'll flash that up too, but I like that a lot better. So, this was fine, but kind of pricey. And, it's okay. Like the print's not super small, so like my bad eyes can kind of still read it. But, if you can, for much less money, I was able to find this, which I wanted to read. And again, it's a bit newer than It. So Stephen King, as you go back in time, his hardcovers get more and more expensive. But since this one's from like 2011 anyway, I was able to get, it's even got the plastic thing. This is what I was talking about with library editions. This one's not a library edition, but someone had just gone through the trouble of putting the plastic cover on it or whatever. And this one I got for like less than the price of It. Like this is in like mint condition. I'm reading it right now. That's why the bookmark's in it. But it's got the cool cover of like the JFK before he's getting assassinated. And then since this is kind of like an alternate history book, on the back it's got a picture of JFK as if he survived the assassination. Because in the story, a character actually goes back in time to try to prevent JFK's assassination. But I'll also be talking about this one in my end of the month book review. But it's not all Stephen King. But I've been reading a lot of Stephen King lately. I'm going to try to read a bit less, but I just have a lot of his books. And then another example of the paperback versus hardback with Stephen King specifically. This is another one I grabbed at that bookstore. So the Shining, a new edition, but you can see like these are weird. Some of the Stephen King books, they're these like long kind of mass market paperback things. And so they're a weird shape. They're a bit longer, but they're very narrow. And, and then, you have the problem of like there not being much of a margin between the pages. And again, a lot of times with like cheap mass market paperback editions, that's what you're getting. Except it wasn't really that cheap, again, because I'm buying it from a chain bookstore in Thailand. It's just not going to be that cheap. Whereas, I was able to, after that, find a copy of Needful Things with the original cover and everything. And this one's from 1990. And again, this is a cover I really like. And, this book's not in perfect condition. There's a little bit of like a tear on the dust jacket right here. That's not a big deal for me. I don't mind that at all. And then, so it's got like kind of the wraparound picture again. I like that. And again, it's in good condition. You can see the quality of the paper, of course, is much better. There's a lot more space in the margins. It's obviously going to be bigger and easier to read if you're getting old like myself, and you get the old 1990 picture of Stephen King with it as well. And again, like this was probably very similar in price to like what I was paying for those kind of junky paperbacks. So again, it was totally worth it, especially when you can get the free shipping on that. And then the next little example I have, let me get some of these books out of my way. Okay, so when I had gone to a book fair in Bangkok, I've mentioned this in a few videos already, but my son found this Bernard Cornwell novel, and I always pronounce it Bernard, but I guess it's Bernard, so I've been saying that wrong. And I found it in his bag of books. He bought like 15 books, and this is the example. Like at a book fair, you can get secondhand books, but they're not like particularly cheap. I guess this one was it 150 baht, it says on the sticker. I'm not sure if that's what he paid for it, if we got a little bit less, but that would be like $5 even. So not terrible. Maybe it was a bit cheaper than that, I'm not sure. But anyway, though, this was like, it struck me as kind of an interesting book because first off, he's a 15-year-old at that time, and so this one looked more of it wasn't like YA fiction. It looked more like an adult fiction book. And so, but I realized this was book 2, and so I'm like, oh, I want to get the complete set. And I'd heard some other people talking about him after that, so I want to read this. And so I ordered the first book, and lo and behold, I got a paperback on purpose because I wanted just to match the set if it was possible. But I guess this is like a UK maybe trade edition, I'm guessing, and this is the American edition, and it's quite a bit smaller. So you can see this is what I got basically. And so, it's not a big deal. The set didn't match, but yeah, you can see kind of like this too. This is a used edition I got off Amazon too. And it was very, very inexpensive, but with Cornwell, they're all very inexpensive if you're a Cornwell fan, which you should be, because I just finished The Archer's Tale. I'm going to review that with the Stephen King books as well. And I absolutely loved this book. But yeah, if you can get the hardcovers, for like the same price as the paperbacks, and they're like dirt cheap. I don't know why, at least in this series. And I think I was searching through some other Cornwell, and they all looked fairly cheap. And you can compare these. I'm pretty sure I paid about the same price for these, and you can see how much nicer the hardcover was. Now, this one's not even a library edition. Yeah. So again, it's in like nearly perfect condition. I mean, look how nice the pages are, of course, like the other books. And so very nice, very cheap. And, if my son hadn't bought the paperback one, I would have just gone with all the hardcovers. So now I've got like the most mismatched set you'll ever see. They're all different. These ones are at least the same size, but the paperbacks are different sizes. The hardcover is the same size, but of course it's a hardcover. There is a 4th book in this series that I guess it's somewhat considered to be part of the series, but it can also work as a standalone. So I think it's 1356 maybe. I do plan on buying that, and I'll probably, I don't know. I wish I could find like a fourth version that's also different to just make it the most mismatched set of books ever. I did see I could buy it on cassette tape, which would be awesome, but I don't enjoy Audible books, so I'll probably just get another hardcover one since they're fairly cheap. But Cornwell, he's an author that I want to read a lot more of. I'm really getting into historical fiction, and I really loved his writing in that first book, so I'm thrilled that I can find so many of his books and like the hardcover ones for so cheap. And then moving on, I just got a couple more examples left. Another author I've been wanting to read is Dan Simmons, and specifically his science fiction work. And so I wanted to read Hyperion, and this one I ended up getting like a mass market paperback set. I don't know if you can't see it over there, but because it does have like I think the original covers on it, and there was a nicer paperback edition that had it was nicer, but the cover wasn't cool. It didn't have the original cover. So I just wanted the original cover. So I got these cheap kind of mass market ones, and this is actually new. But you can see same problem with the margin, having no margin there. I hate that. I haven't read it yet though, but I'm really looking forward to reading that. But he had another short series of just 2 books, and I found the first one of that, Ilium, for very cheap as well. So here you can see like, basically probably the same price. This one I got for very cheap, and this one was a library book. It's just got a little bit of the printing on there and like the stamp on the top, and it does have a few things on the back. I didn't try really ripping those off because it usually rips the paper inside, but that doesn't bother me too much. What I really like is just the covers and stuff. All his books have really cool covers, and this one was great. Now with Hyperion, I will say getting the hardcover edition is quite difficult. I think those are kind of collector's items, so that's the downside. Sometimes those things can get so expensive that it's no longer practical, but this, I guess, is a much less popular book of his, so this one I was able to find for very cheap, and I noticed some of his other books too on hardcover are very cheap. I think the second one of this is like Olympus or something about something to do with the ancient Greek anyway. So I think this one might be more based on, maybe they're going for like a kind of an Iliad thing, or obviously Troy, and the second one maybe is more of the Odyssey. And it sounds very interesting. It's some kind of like future planet where they're, I think they're like simulating the Greek wars to see if they were actually possible, to see if there was something like that. I don't know, something interesting. But anyway, I was happy to find this book, and yeah, like I said, a really cool edition, big, and again, much easier on the eyes than the small mass market paperback. All right, and then just one last example, I guess, because I'm just showing all the books I ordered recently. This was another book I'd been looking for, and this is Clifford D. Simak, and this is City. I'm going to be reading some dog-related books starting in January, as you can see with Plague Dogs. And then this is another one. This is like a science fiction story, somewhat revolving around dogs as well, like an intelligent dogs that had brain surgery by humans and da-da-da. So anyway, it seems like a really interesting book. This edition probably wouldn't exactly be what I could go for, but this is an older book. And so this is a 50th anniversary edition. I think the original book came out in 1953, and so this one's from 2003. And of course, with sci-fi authors, a lot of times you can also find like very cool old paperback editions that have great covers. This cover's not the greatest, but even like the paperback edition of this is quite expensive. So I was able to get a secondhand one for not too bad. This is another example though of a library book, and I do like sometimes these old hardcovers have pictures of the author on the back as well. I like that when it's like I don't know. He looks like someone I'd like to hang out with. So this one, again, it's got a lot of stickers on the inside that probably aren't easy to get off. And this one, honestly, like I'd had great luck with getting stickers off the outside. This one was a struggle. For some reason, like everything this library used was like just super, super sticky. Nothing wanted to come off. So, the stickers were really hard to get off, and even the tape they used was like nearly impossible to get off. So it's still got a little bit of a sticky feeling to it, but I think I got most of it off pretty well, actually. What library? The Wakeman Library of Wakeman, Ohio. So whatever they're using to stick stuff there, man, they got some sticky stuff. Now other libraries, I think it was this book, I want to say, maybe it was Heretic, I can't remember. It was one of these though. They had actually, like, when it was taped on, they had bent the edges of the tape, like taped over the edges, so it made a little tab so you could easily like pull the tab off. Whoever the librarian was there made it very easy for future buyers to kind of take everything off. So I did appreciate that. I'm not sure which library it was. I don't want to. Maybe it could have been the Berkshire Library of Pittsfield, Massachusetts. It might have been that one, but I can't exactly remember. It was either that or yeah, it was definitely that. Okay. And that's the other kind of fun thing about getting library books is you get to see like where the book was from. Now, some of them do still have the punch cards in them with older dates, but a lot of the ones, kind of post 2000 will just have the barcodes in them and no more of the old sheets in them, or like this is the only one I've gotten that still had the actual little holder for the thing. I do like that. This one, I can't tell where this one was from. I think I can't read it. I took too much off of it. Yeah, it's just kind of fun to get those library books as well. Again, the other thing about the library books is, when you buy books, it'll basically tell you what condition it's in. And so, normally you can tell, and the library books seem to generally be very well taken care of. I don't know if it's just that I'm getting books that aren't that popular, not that many people check them out, but generally speaking, like, they're pretty honest about the condition. Even this Plague Dogs one, which looks like it's in really great shape, This one just was like used acceptable. So that's kind of like the middle grade rating. You can see it's really, really quite nice. It's even got, it's got illustrations throughout it too, like these kind of engravings. And I think the reason maybe that it went to acceptable is the fact that the stickers were like all over it, but luckily I was able to get those off. So that can also be a bonus because it could maybe drive the price down a little bit. A lot of the used booksellers, they don't care about getting the stuff off it, I guess, and a lot of times they slap more stickers on, which is annoying. But I guess if you consider that it's pretty easy to get those off, generally speaking, with the exception of City. That was the one book that I struggled with. It might make it worthwhile actually if it drives the price down a bit. So anyway, I don't want to blab on about this too much. I just wanted to make a quick video kind of showing some of the books I bought and kind of proclaiming the superiority of the hardback editions, just that they are out there. You can find them without too much digging around, and I definitely think they're worth it if that's your thing, especially if you like classic covers and you want like a little higher quality book that's gonna last you a long time. Because like I said, the price is basically the same. Generally, it's like cheaper than buying a new paperback edition of many of these books. So for me, it's worth its while. And on that note, a couple things. This week, probably on Monday, I'll be coming out with the second video of my daughter reading her first book. So she does not like to read, and we made a video asking people to help select her first book. That's up, so if you want to watch that, I'll link to it below. And I think I've gotten about 4 recommendations so far, and they're all really good. So the people who gave recommendations, thank you. They were very thoughtful, and they seemed appropriate for what she would like. So we'll make a video where she chooses which of those titles that she wants to read first, at least. Hopefully she'll read more of them later. But I wanted to thank everyone who left a recommendation. And if you haven't yet, there's still a few days. So click on that video and leave a recommendation in the comment section. And then secondly, I'll actually be reviewing some books. I've only reviewed one book since I started this channel. That was my first video, which was Stephen King's The Stand. I'm not even going to link to that video because I think it was terrible. But I'm going to be talking about, you can probably guess, you saw some of the Stephen King books and definitely some of the Cornwell. So that'll be coming out soon, maybe a few days after that video of my daughter's. So sometime probably mid next week. So watch out for those videos as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.